Trauma Therapist Podcast, episode 489. All right, guys, welcome to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to raise awareness of trauma and to support new trauma therapists just starting out on their trauma-informed journey. I do that through this podcast and my membership community, Trauma Therapist 2.0. If you're a therapist of any kind, interested in learning about trauma, and you're looking for support and inspiration, I invite you to check out Trauma Therapist 2.0 by going to traumatherapist2.com. That's traumatherapist, the number 2.com. All right, let's get started. All right, folks, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. Guy McPherson here, and I am thrilled to have back Dr. Sharon Stanley. Sharon, welcome.
Thank you so much, Guy. I appreciate being back and checking in again.
Awesome. All right, so Dr. Stanley has educated thousands of healthcare professionals internationally in the principles and practices of somatic psychotherapy. Building on her research on empathy with traumatized youth, Sharon founded Somatic Transformation, a body-based relational methodology based in interpersonal neuropsychology, ancient wisdom, and the somatic emotional lived experience. Sharon participates in Dr. Allan Schore's Seattle study group, and her work with First Nations, the study of Afro-Brazilian healing with ongoing research into clinical practice, has led to a fluid convergence of neurological research and professional skills. Welcome back.
Thank you, Guy.
So we were talking just briefly just before we recorded about how each of us is doing, and we're talking about the fires, and how has the pandemic impacted you and what you've been doing with work, et cetera?
You know, it's so complex, isn't it, Guy, to be able to describe the different layers and levels of the way this pandemic has affected me, my family, my community, my work. I think generally, I could say that it has really increased my awareness, my consciousness of many different levels that I hadn't really perceived before. And I think it has brought me into a real depth of feeling on many different levels. Just the feeling of gratitude for my grandchildren and for the work that I do. I think one of the things that maybe is an outcome of this pandemic is I've learned how to swim in cold water. And I mean that literally. I've been going out to a dock on Puget Sound, and you know it's about 55 degrees in the Sound, and swimming about 3 times a week.
Wow.
And there's something about facing my fear of cold water and swimming and getting in there and moving that I think has become symbolic. And I hope I continue it as the fall increases. But it's it feels like it's kind of a metaphor for what we're into in terms of the complexity of intense change and intense affect that we're seeing on a global climate level, on a local level where we've both talked about the smoke and how it's affecting us, on our family level, the pandemic or work. There's so many levels, politics, where we could either come apart or we can come back together in a new way. And I'm not sure that makes sense, but that's kind of my overall sense of jumping into cold water.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity, certainly, and how we utilize that, how we perceive that is definitely up to us. But first, so the cold water thing, did that just come about because you wanted to get out and exercise and that was the way to socially distance, or what?
You know, I don't know that I really thought about it, but there was one hot day this summer that the cold water felt like, well, that might be an option. And so I jumped in, and there was an exhilaration of just being able to be in that cold water and to swim, the freedom of swimming in the water that is salt water. It's cold. It's real primal. It felt like just kind of getting right down into it. And I kind of get the feeling over and over that we are in the midst of trauma. So much of what I've spent years working with is post-traumatic stress. But we're not in post-traumatic stress at the moment so much as we're in the moments that can be traumatizing. And how do we meet them? How do we process the affect that comes up in the moment so that we can move from this intense feeling that emerges, that's there, into meaning? And that's kind of where I'm really interested right now. So much of post-traumatic work is about basically clearing the residue of affect from the past that hasn't been resolved. But what I'm beginning to recognize is that when we're in the midst of trauma, we can take a real lesson from Viktor Frankl and the experience he had in a concentration camp, where as soon as he found a meaning for his experience, he was able to have a tremendous amount of courage and wisdom and support from all the people around him. And I think that's the struggle I'm facing and others around me are facing, is how do we make meaning out of this lived experience we're in this moment?
Yeah, that I love that. I mean, I think that's such a great point about we are in the midst of trauma. That's exactly what Jeannie Fisher was saying. She was saying you can heal trauma when it's past, but when you're in the midst of it, you're in the midst of it.
Right.
But my question to you is, I mean, I guess this can go for anything. How do you make meaning? Is it just we each have to come up with our own personal meaning, our own story for what this is? I mean, just before you respond to that, just quickly, when this all started, the pandemic started, and the news was just on and on and on about COVID and the rates going up and people dying. I was so stressed. I was so anxiety ridden. I was like, all right, I can't do this because the kids were home. My wife was working. The kids. How am I going to deal with this? And I realized that I just had to stop looking at the news. Otherwise, I was going to go nuts. But having said that, to me, that's hard to make meaning out of this.
But it sounds like you have, Guy. I got a sense as you were speaking that there is a tremendous amount of emotion that came at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And that emotion, I could just feel as you were speaking, you were containing it. And as you contained that emotion, somehow in that containment, that emotion moved in, or that feeling of that emotion moved into, and this is my guess, that you decided what was really important to you, what was important for you to do at this time.
Right.
And you mentioned the kids and the challenges you had. I can only imagine all of the complexity of feelings, but I get a sense in this moment that you know what's important to you.
Well, you're exactly right. I did decide what was important, because I said to myself, I cannot let this just completely debilitate me. I've got a 5-year-old over there and an 11-year-old over there that I need to show up for and be present. Yeah. And you're right. That's what I said to myself. Yeah.
What's important? And there's a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they need me.
Right.
And your purpose was really clear there, embodied in those children. And as you knew that, as you clarified that, that was the meaning, wasn't it?
So similarly, each of us has to find that our own meaning in this.
I think this is where relational therapy is critical. I don't know that I really admire that you could do that on your own. And yet it was about relationship. And one of the things I've been so aware of lately is how important it is that I seek in the relationships close to me, people that I love and trust, I seek what their vision is of me and where I'm not seeing everything about me. And how these relational connections I have with people I love and trust help me go way beyond where I've been before. Like a call. That we're not meant to do this on our own, and we're not meant to just do it with dyads. I think this is a collective trauma, and I think we need to do it on a larger scale. Luckily, I live in a community that has been developed because they wanted to be in community. It's a group of homes that share a particular space and other amenities, and a number of us got together online and have been talking about racial issues, about privilege, about our feelings. And we went far beyond what I could have even imagined. People that I hadn't really gotten to know, but talking about what was really true for us and what our experience was. And the closer we get to this truth of our experience and can talk about it in a collective, in a community, or in relationships, I think the faster we get to that meaning. And then we share it. Then we're not alone. I don't think there's anything like, it's really different than the trauma bond, where a trauma bond creates a kind of tie or inner connection that's destructive, where the kind of coming together with a shared purpose and meaning brings me back to stories. For some reason, I'm always entranced by the stories of people, how people made it through World War II, and the stories that I heard of people in the indigenous communities that I worked with, of how they couldn't imagine doing it on their own. It had to be done collectively. And that's what Stephen Porges' research is all about, is when we come together as a collective with shared meaning, we're going to be able to negotiate in a much different way than if we have to be alone and try and survive on our own. Because then we have to use sympathetic arousal. And if we have to use sympathetic arousal, we've got the adrenaline and cortisols destroying our body and our isolation. But when we can come together in this collective, in this shared meaning, shared space of social engagement, we can negotiate in a way that takes us to a higher level, I think, maybe of humanity. I see that as a potential right now.
So the importance of reaching out, finding community, getting involved in a time where physically that's really challenging, of course.
Exactly.
But I love how you're highlighting the importance of that. What are some ways people might do that?
Well, here we are, you and I.
Yeah.
And the Zoom is one way. The neighborhood community I live in, we've got a number of wooden chairs outside that we can sit 6 feet apart and wear our masks and communicate. It feels like we have to keep trying to make contact. I probably do 4 or 5 Zooms a day with individuals, with communities, with small groups. I'm amazed at the potential of people to come together, even just using this internet platform. That, it brings us face to face.
Right.
And it really, we can hear each other's voices. And when we have intense emotions, we can actually see how this medium can't often deal with all that energy in us, and it kind of freezes up. So it's here now. We've got it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, to me, what you said about, kind of honoring the relationships you have and utilize them in a sense as a mirror. You talked about kind of highlighting your or being aware of your blind spots, as it were. Right. Now, literally, how do you do that? Do you ask someone, what are you seeing? How do you do that?
I think it's kind of about building relationships where feelings really are the core, where you're safe to be able to talk about deeper and deeper feelings inside, and being able to listen as the other describes theirs, and gradually just kind of where we have this social agreed upon norm, starting to drop down deeper and deeper as the trust develops. The term dialogue has been coming, where the dia, the two, and the log, the way of knowing, and where dialogue is so different than discussion. We're in a dialogue where we're talking about what matters, what's true. And we discover that as we talk about it with a listener that cares. And how do we, and I think one of the benefits I've found with this time is I'm not traveling as much. I'm not going into environments that are unfamiliar. I was traveling a lot and giving a lot of classes or lectures, but I'm home. I'm with my garden. I'm with my, and each day I can be with the weather, the trees, the sun, the smoke, even, if you will. And so the more I'm present to my lived experience of the day and the rhythm of it, the more I can be present with other people. And if I really care about that, then that's what I'm going to do. And the few people I have in my so-called pod that I see, how do I get to know them deeper and deeper and hold that space for them to reveal themselves to me? And then I'm more able to reveal myself.
All right, guys, I want to welcome back Talkspace as a sponsor to this podcast. When you're busy, like we all are, the first thing that falls to the bottom of the list usually tends to be taking care of yourself. I don't have time or money for that, people often tend to say. Many people think that therapy is just about analyzing dreams or digging into painful memories, both of which can be very powerful. We know that. But it's also a great tool for developing coping skills, dealing with stress, and getting the accountability you need to achieve your goals. The bottom line is that life can be hard, and Talkspace wants to make sure more of us get the support we need at a price we can afford. As a listener of this podcast, you get $100 off your first month on Talkspace. To match with your perfect therapist, go to Talkspace.com or download the app. Make sure to use the code TraumaTherapist to get $100 off your first month and show your support for this show. Once again, go to Talkspace.com and use the code TraumaTherapist. Something so grounding feeling in what you're saying. And it feels like, to me, as you're talking, I'm feeling very grounded and as opposed to or in juxtaposition to the anxiety I was talking about before, when all this, the news of the pandemic was constantly rolling around in my brain. There's something so, elemental, and it feels very secure in what you're saying. Like, I don't feel scared. You're talking to me about creating and maybe this is just the power of relationship, creating a space and a foundation of trust of where this is what we're going through. And what you're describing to me just feels, there's a solidity to it, a grounding to it that makes me feel like, we can get through this. But it feels like it has to do with the relation, like a shared humanity in a sense. I wish all of us had that community you had. That sounds amazing.
I think it's all about starting from where you are.
Mm.
I mean, 5-year-olds are so amazing in knowing truth.
Right.
And 7-year-olds too, just starting exactly with where you are. And then step by step, expanding that. Not going too fast.
Right, right. How does that translate to, say, the people who are listening to this, clinicians of all various types? How does that translate to, a clinician saying, "Okay, that sounds great, Sharon. How am I going to utilize this in the work I'm doing with my clients who are traumatized?"
And I do consultations with therapists all around the world. I can do that with the Zoom. And I'm seeing therapists who need the support of each other to continue. They need to be seen and felt at a deep level for them to be able to offer that to their clients. And so I'm encouraging them to go into groups of at least 4, where each can take a turn really talking from the depth of their feeling and their experience, and really truly listening to each other. Not that they have to make a lot of responses to each other, but to be able to do that on a regular basis then gives them then that ability to listen to their clients in a new and fresh way. I think we have to, in some ways, let go of everything we ever heard about trauma, and come back to a place of really being heart to heart, soul to soul, and making that number one, rather than the multitude of information and strategies that have accumulated. How do we come back to the essence, the truth of what it means to be human and suffering? That human beings have always known how to be there with each other. Mm-hmm. We know this inside us.
And are you suggesting that we kind of put aside everything we know about trauma because that often tends to get in the way of connecting? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that we go underneath it. It might be necessary and helpful in a way, but there's a place where we need to be here for each other, not that we need a mutuality in this time. We need to be true to what we're experiencing. Mm-hmm. And often I think what I've seen over this, it's been about 15, 20 years I've been doing this trauma work, is it's moved from this person to person, heart to heart, or soul to soul place into the dimensions underneath that need to, it's the life force guy, that we need to come back into this life energy inside us that we can feel, and be able to bring that up so it's available for ourselves and for others, and then do our work. I'm not saying to not do our work, right, but we've got to. And Antonio Damasio, in his book The Strange Order of Things, he's got this science down, is that as soon as we can pay attention to that life force, that energy of life within us, and begin to identify that as our feeling in the moment, and as we can be in presence of that and amplify that brings life to our own experience and to each other. And it's the life we need now to be able to work with the forces that are not life, that are dividing us, are sickening us. And so coming to this this place of life. And I have a background that I rarely talk about, but I have a degree, a master's degree in theology. And I, at one time, taught theology to high school students. And I kept going to what's the root of spirituality? What's the root of? And I realized that spirituality and psychology have the same roots. It's the human soul, the psyche. And we're in a time that we need to find life and bring life to each other.
So in addition, or along with kind of setting aside everything we know about trauma in a sense, and of course not abandoning it,
right?
But what does this mean for the practitioner, the therapist? What is this asking them to do? What is this requiring of them in a sense?
You know, what it's required of me, I can speak to that and what I see around me with other therapists, but it's required me to look at my own life, my own experience, and look at where I have failed to be open to others' experience in the moment. And that whatever the other is experiencing, is there a place where I can know how I experience it, that subjective place, but how I can be really open to seeing, hearing, and feeling the world from the other person's experience. And it's a kind of a profound empathy. The more I know about empathy, and the more it opens up to be step of the way. So can I really see somebody that I have a really diametrically opposed political view? Can I sit with them and feel their anguish and their suffering? So I think your question of what is it, it's asking the therapists to not only take care of their kids and to take care of their relationships and their parents or their responsibility, to go deeper into what it means to bring out the deepest part of their own humanity and to live that out. And I think we can do it, but I don't think we can do it alone.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about that to me that just it just excites me in the sense that it just feels so human. It feels so connected. And at the same time, I can tell you that when I was starting out, when I got out of graduate school and when I was in graduate school and I was seeing clients, I was doing the exact opposite of that. I was clinging to, techniques and treatment modalities and trying to wedge them into meetings I was having with clients. And it was anything but what you're talking about now. And it took me a lot of self-trust, and trust in beingness in a sense. It's very exciting to me what you're talking about, Sharon, because it just feels like it honors who each of us is as a person, and that's okay, right?
And not only is it okay, Guy, it is incredibly precious. And it's needed in today's world.
I mean, I think this is a beautiful message for people to hear, who are wondering how to get through the days with their clients and how to get through the days with their kids and so forth. I remember once when you were on here, you talked about, I think we were talking about authenticity, and you had said that it's a day-to-day practice. This is something that is a day-to-day intentionality in a sense. This is not something that.
And my sense, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that this, I think this takes a willingness, certainly, an intentionality on our part.
Right. It's like going in the cold water.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable, and it's not safe, and it doesn't fit into all the little hooks that we've learned how to we've learned to use. But it's about being real. And unless we're real, we're not going to awaken life. I'm just talking to you that the message, I hope, life in each other. Like, what do you do, Guy, to awaken life in that 5-year-old or that 7-year-old when they get down about not having time with their friends and watching my grandkids struggle again with online learning and just that aloneness that's coming. And as the fall gets on, what are we going to do to bring about aliveness? And we've had so many distractions and ways to do that, but we don't have them anymore. And it's in us. And it's in the relationship that the life gets ignited and then can burn through the trauma of the moment to what's essential.
Wow. I just want to remind everyone that I'm speaking with Dr. Sharon Stanley. And Sharon, your website is somatictransformation.com.
That's right.
Okay. People can reach you there. And so are you working? Are you seeing clients? What are you doing right now?
I spend 2 days a week with one-on-one clients. I know I need to keep doing that probably forever. Well, as long as I can. But I'm also doing classes online, but small groups. I really believe in small groups. I'm also doing a group of lectures I'm putting online, and I have somebody helping me to get them onto Vimeo that I'm thinking of putting on my website. So I'm getting a series of those to kind of go through some of the basic principles that I use in practice, this embodiment, the awareness, and the empathy, and then how to do an inquiry, how to ask these questions, and then how to use techniques. But most of all, how to reflect on our lived experience to find meaning.
Yeah, I love that. Well, if and when those get up, shoot them to me, and I'll put them on the show notes page of the episode here at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Sharon, I love having you on here, man. I knew this was going to be amazing.
I sure appreciate being asked, Guy.
Awesome.
And you
we'll
too.
keep
Blessings.
in touch.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.